Some of the most damaging relationships are the hardest ones to explain, and they don't have to look extreme in order to be deeply harmful. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism podcast, where we make sense of what never quite made sense. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more, it's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin moving forward. You need a coach. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Welcome back to the CNG Community Chat. In our last conversation, we heard how each of these parents realized that their child was being turned against them. If you missed last week's episode, go back and listen to part 1. Today, we go a step further. How do you protect the relationship that you do still have with that child in the middle of all this chaos? And what do you wish someone had told you when you were just starting to walk through it? So let's continue with our conversation. All right, with doing everything right or doing everything we thought was right for our kids and trying to be that parent like what we're talking about, and then something like this happens, what makes that loss feel so unfair?
I think for me, there was something that I read once that said the narcissist breaks the other parent first because that allows them to more easily manipulate the children. And it's that misconception of the role they played that the children end up having. And so what I read explained was that they sort of create chaos. They break down the other parent. They wear them down. They make them seem irrational. They create this situation, but then that situation allows them to step in as the hero, as the calm one, the stable parent, the fun parent. And it's their way of flipping that script for the kids to more easily then manipulate the kids. And it's not being able to reveal that dynamic to the kids without calling it what it is and kind of calling out the other parent who was the fun, stable one for so long. And then they think, well, you're just bashing the other parent. You're just angry. That's what my oldest says to me. And I'm like, you need to understand. I mean, I can have this conversation with her because she's almost 30. Like,
Sure.
you need to understand what it was like for me living in that. Like, I'm asking you to try to see what it was like for me because you are old enough to do this. But for a younger child, that would be so much more difficult.
Sure. With your daughter being that age and being, an adult, is there any way for this repair with her to happen where she can't possibly put herself in your shoes? Like she can't. She's the child in the environment and in the household. So is there a way where you could ask her, "Can you trust me that this is my experience and my side of it, even though you don't understand it, you can't relate to it, but just let that trust be there so that we can move forward in our relationship and your relationship now start to be built on something that's not about all of this."
That's what I'm trying to do. It's hard to navigate. I mean, I think part of it is that it's still so new.
Mhm.
There's still so much that's fresh. Also, she now lives abroad, so it's not like we can get together for lunch, you know?
Sure.
So there's geographical challenges, and she's also married to somebody who heavily influences her in a negative way, and so there's that. There's some additional challenges playing into this.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, but I try really hard to say we raised you to think that this type of behavior was okay. And I'm telling you now that I am still your mother and it is still my job to teach you. It just looks different than it used to. And so what I'm doing now is holding to what I know is true. And you'll either, eventually trust that I know what I'm doing or you won't. But I'm going to do what I think is right either way.
And I would say maybe it would be healthy to get to the point for all of us that we don't need our kids to understand what happened
Right.
in order for us to be okay, and in order for our relationship even to be okay.
Well, and I think one thing that she struggles with right now is that I had so much anger at first. There was so much revealed of the lies in the 27 years, and I went into it with a terminal illness. So, and he had cleared us out financially, and it was a really drastic amount of money that was missing. I was angry. And one thing that I've reiterated with her now is I spent, the first 48 years of my life being calm because other people needed me to. So I respectfully reserve the right to be as angry as I need to be. You don't have to like that. But I'm not going to change my emotions because it makes you more comfortable, because then I'm repeating the pattern you witnessed growing up.
Right.
And I said, I'll give you time to get more comfortable with that. But mom gets angry now. Like, this is just, anger is part of who I am now. And you haven't been used to that. Welcome to the new show.
Well, I mean, how many times did we swallow our own emotions over and over and over, which is not healthy to teach our kids to do. Our kids have to be able to be angry, and I was guilty of that in my own marriage. I didn't know how to let my kids be angry. Well, I didn't know how to let myself be angry. And so in learning it myself actually then gave me the space to be able to handle them being angry. Like it actually helped me and them when anger started being an okay emotion to have, within its parameters, of course, but still. Okay. How are you, for any of you here, how are you protecting the relationship that you have with Sarah, for example, the one, even though the three have left, and Aaron, you're one, in your situation, and Denise as well. How are you protecting that relationship in the midst of this?
For me, I'll go. It certainly is very challenging. I think because of the situation, she is with me full time now, so she can interact with her sisters and her dad when she chooses to, and I have to be careful and try to encourage that. And I don't know that I'll use the word encourage, but allow that when she wants to reach out to them, certainly more with her sisters than her dad. But the probably the biggest thing that has helped me is I do have a counselor for her that has been helpful and understands the dynamics at play and is able to kind of be a neutral voice for her, um, and not, like for me, it's challenging when she wants to see her dad, and maybe I am hesitating on that because of my own triggers and my own trauma, but that counselor can, answer and speak into that situation from a neutral standpoint. And so, um, but overall, that has probably been the two biggest things is that she's with me full time because of the situation, and has limited contact with him, and she controls that when she wants to interact with them, although that's not ideal, certainly. But then the counseling, and the counselor that understands. I have had counselors in the lives of my other children that have not fully grasped what was going on.
Okay. Do you think that was a factor?
I don't. Maybe to some degree, for sure, with the oldest, a very the counselor definitely did not understand, maybe even supported. But to what you were sharing earlier, I grew up what I now realize with a narcissistic mother, and so I learned to swallow my own emotions, do as told. Anger was never an emotion expressed in our home, and so when that began showing up in my children, um, I didn't know how to handle that, and because I wasn't taught that that was an okay emotion. So, um, that really was difficult with the oldest child. And then she was in counseling. And again, I've grown tremendously in learning about emotions and healthy emotions. And I wish I could speak that into her now and tell her, the difference that understand. But, and even to that counselor. But yes, good counselors, bad counselors can make a big difference. And counselors who understand narcissism, understand control, abuse behaviors. And, we didn't start with this particular counselor for that reason. And so we started because of an ADHD diagnosis. And so, in their fairness to them, they were not trauma informed.
And that definitely can make a difference, just having somebody who really understands it. Does your 14-year-old see the dynamic for what it is? I mean, around that age is when my kids actually started seeing it.
Yes, certainly. I think it's so much easier when you're outside of any situation to be able to see it. Like, she
Mhm.
genuinely wanted to call her dad last week when she realized that the two were left alone and try to explain to him, how unjust that was and how terrible that was for them. Um, and I just said, it, basically it's futile. Like, like, we have to learn what we can control and what we can't control. And I've had to learn the hard way that I can't control what happens over there. But she
Yeah,
can see it, being removed from it. I think when you're in it and getting all the freedoms, and learning
it's
to live
harder.
for yourself, it's so much harder.
Okay. Aaron, how are you protecting that relationship with your younger?
I'm still working on it. I'm learning a lot right now. I'm reading Co-Parenting with a Toxic Ex: What to Do When Your Ex-Spouse Tries to Turn the Kids Against You by Amy Baker and Paul Fine. And one thing that I found myself doing that I found was good advice, is when my son comes back, he's recluse for the first couple days. He's living in two different worlds. It's like he must be, completely different environment switch, and that must be really hard on him. And so it takes him a while to kind of come out of his shell, be comfortable again, be laughing again. But he'll come back and say these disparaging things that his mom had told him about me. And that just can ruminate and stick with me and make it kind of take away from the present moment of being with my son. And so the advice in this book, one of the things I underlined here was that try to remember your child is just a messenger, and then a negative response will only bring your child further into the conflict because it puts them in the position of having to defend your ex's decisions, entrenching their alignment with your ex. And so at times like this, the landmine to avoid is being so focused on the latest problem, which certainly feels like a crisis, but that you lose sight of the fact that your child is sitting right in front of you. So like in my mind, I'll be like somewhere else and just thinking of like, what can I do to, stop this stuff? And here's my son right in front of me wanting to play or wanting attention or to do something and have me in that moment. And I'm off at another place.
Mhm.
So catching myself in that and then just, moving myself to the present moment and putting that off the side for therapy, writing that down in a journal on my phone. I see weekly therapist, and she's like, put it in the closet. Put these things in the closet for me to, and come every week and bring them up and set them in there. And you don't have to, think about them until you come and see me. They're important and they need to be addressed, but save it for later. And that's been
Good
helping a
advice.
lot.
That's
And
good advice. Yep.
yeah, I have him in therapy too, but that's not been going so well. It's been on and off. It's been a roller coaster of trying to get him a good therapist.
Okay.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stories around that I could
Okay.
share if there's time, but
Well, I love the advice you're giving here and what you're saying. I have said before to many of my clients, let your relationship with each child be about you and that child. So your time with your 10-year-old is not about your ex. Your time with your 10-year-old is about you and that 10-year-old. Is you and that child. And Sarah, your time with your daughter is not about her sisters. And each one, like each kid we have, our relationship with them is not about the siblings. It's not about the ex. It's not about anyone else. My relationship with them is about me and that child.
It's almost like their goal is to take that away and you're constantly thinking about them, about the ex, and that's like the trap that it's
Mhm.
easy to fall
Well,
into, is just that attention that
of
they
course,
need.
that's their goal. That's the narcissism in there.
Yeah.
They want all of our attention all the time. So, Denise, how about you? How are you protecting that relationship with your other child?
So we have definitely tried to not talk about their father when I'm with them. So I will very occasionally ask, are you guys getting along okay? Is there anything you need help with? Is there anything you need me to talk to him about? Because he and I have gone as much no contact as possible. And so that keeps it pretty benign. And there are things we'll talk about that like I'm struggling with that they'll ask. And of course, again, my kids are older. So it's a little bit different dynamic, but they'll ask like something I'm struggling with. And this is the child that's the easier one for sure, because they have like the darker sense of humor and very unfiltered and very just like throw things out there. And so I was laughing one day when they got in the car because I was struggling with the fact that, and I guess this is pretty common in narcissistic marriages, that like all of the pictures have him in them and I'm not in any of them. And so like all the family photos of the memories all have him. And I have wanted to put up more photos. And I had posted online where my kids can't read it, a question to a divorce group, like, what do I do? Short of like putting all the photos through AI, because I don't want my kids to see that I'm like erasing their father from their memories either. And one person wrote back that I should cut out dinosaur heads and put dinosaur heads over. And then another person said to put googly eyes. And so they asked what I was laughing at. And I told them, like, I don't know if you really want to hear it. They're like, just try me. So I told them this, and they took it a step further and they said, instead of googly eyes, you could do Mike Wazowski. But if you do that, you have to use a barcode instead of a googly eye. And it was just like the humor in it. And so I try not to hide that there's things I struggle with, but that I'm trying to find ways to cope with those things and to navigate those things. And I've drastically changed a lot since the divorce. Attitude, personality, physical appearance, my health has drastically increased. And so my child's been able to watch this transition. And I was at Pride with this child and ran into some of their friends, and their friends know me well, did not recognize me at all. And I said, you don't realize who I am, do you? And I told them who I was. And they were like, oh my God. And they said, well, your child told us you were living out of spite, I guess. And so my child says living out of spite. And I said, it was that at first. And now it's living for fulfillment.
Mhm.
It's being free to be who I am. And I'm really hoping you get to meet that person and get to know that person. And so it's reconnecting with my child with the me that's not feeling like I'm constantly held underwater.
Yeah. When you're put in a position that you can thrive, we can thrive. But when we're put in an environment where we're beaten down or made to stay small, you can't thrive. And so what our kids see is that, maybe we got reactive, or maybe we weren't able to show up for them the way that maybe they wanted or other parents did or whatever. That's what they saw. But they didn't necessarily see the environment that was bringing that about.
Yeah, I think part of it takes time. So I don't mean to go on, and let me know if this is too long-winded, but another thing that happened recently is that, and they'll see the proof of this over time. I used to handle so much in the marriage, but he would always claim to be the one that did everything. And we came up with, this child is on both of our insurance, and I have the better insurance. And so they needed surgery. We had the surgery. And of course, his insurance is first because of a birthday rule, because this child's not a minor, and insurance was denying everything. And this went on for months. And I kept saying, do you need me to step in? No, I got it. 2 months later, no resolution at all. And so finally, my ex says, I don't know what to do. I had it resolved in like 10 minutes. And my child was stressing out because they are an adult and they're getting all these medical bills, tens of thousands of dollars for this denied surgery. And I call my child and I'm like, it's done. And I think I didn't have to say your dad couldn't do it. I didn't have to say this is what I did. I didn't have to do that.
No.
All
You
I had
just
to
let it
do
be
was
taken care
show
of.
that it was taken care of. And my child was like, thank you. And I said, I made sure I had like, next time, just call me. Like next time you need this help, you call me. And they start to realize on their own who did what in the marriage. And I think that's a struggle with the older child, is that she doesn't live here. She can't see the same things that her younger sibling sees.
Okay. Before we close off of here, what would you want somebody who is listening to this episode, another parent in this same type of situation, maybe they're living through that alienation that's starting to happen, or maybe it's already fully happened. What would you want them to know? What do you wish somebody had said to you when you were going through this?
That's
I
a
have
tough.
Sorry.
I don't know that. I think you just have to walk through it. I mean, I wish I would have known more and known the signs ahead of time, but I don't know, that I would have done anything different. I'm kind of probably like where Denise and you guys are, in that you're just trying to survive it, and so you have all these hard emotions. I think now that we're 3 years, 4 years into this same experience, I'm just trying to make the best with the child that I have. And I continue over and over to reach out to the other ones, knowing, that hopefully one day they'll come back. Hopefully one day they'll see it. But one thing that has been really helpful for us is I just thought about this. We watch this show Survivor almost every single night. And it's great for all the different manipulation that's talking through a lot of those things that happen. But it's also just kind of been our theme. Like, we're just trying to survive. But finding that connection point and us, doing that same kind of routine. We might only watch 10 minutes one night, but that has been really helpful with the child that is still here.
Good. I do think it's important to find a place of connection, whatever
Mhm.
that is. And I think that's a good one. I'm a big Survivor fan. So I will definitely support that one. All right.
I think something that I have to remind myself of regularly, and also it works to remind my children of this, is that they didn't ask to survive this either. And I can use that as a common thread. Like, none of us asked to survive this. None of us asked to go through this. And I know it hasn't been easy on me. And I also know it hasn't been easy on you. Just kind of recognizing and validating that this isn't easy.
I like that. And being able to give them permission to not have all the answers. It's okay.
And yourself permission to not have all the
Both.
answers.
Yes, for sure. All right. Aaron, how about you?
For me, it's really rewarding to have conversations like this and to realize that I'm not alone. The situation I'm in, and I'm sure that many of you have at least been through, is the isolation and feeling no one gets it. There's flying monkeys everywhere. I have to watch what I say, who I talk to. It's be very cautious. And there is help. It can be expensive if you don't have insurance to see a therapist, but my therapist recommended Al-Anon, and it's a free group for people that have siblings or relatives or family that are alcoholics. And there's a lot of parallels there. There's a lot of others that have similar situations of losing their children to alcoholism or to drug abuse. That was very humbling, and realizing that I'm not alone and people have it worse. Of course, it's always, comes back to living in the now. But it helps to find that validation. And, I haven't been validated for so many years. And it's really helpful to get that feedback.
And I just want to acknowledge that validating how painful it is as a parent to lose access to a child, that I don't think a lot of people realize how incredibly painful it is.
No doubt. I mean, it's yes, and recognizing that and letting yourself grieve that, even though hopefully by all means it's not permanent, but you still are going through a grief, it's still very, very real. Even if you're still having hope that that's not permanent, doesn't mean it doesn't hurt now. Thank you all so much for sharing your story here, for showing up for this community and making this community what it is. So thank you so much. Losing access to a child, even when you hold on to hope that it isn't permanent, is a real and present grief. And it deserves to be grieved. It deserves to be seen and held. Thank you to these 3 parents for their honesty here today and for helping to build this community into what it is. If this conversation resonated with you, know that you are not walking through this alone. Please reach out and find the help that you need. You are the strongest anchor that that child has. I wish you and your children so much peace on this journey of healing. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more, it's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin to move forward. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Your story matters, and you deserve to be heard without judgment. Check out my coaching services at my website, again, covertnarcissism.com. And don't forget to subscribe, to thumbs up, to follow, to like this podcast so that you can get more empowering episodes like this one and to help us continue spreading the word so that our community can continue to grow. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of this material and information provided.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.